The fall of a dictator rarely brings peace. Instead, it often opens the door to new conflicts, new power struggles, and new uncertainties. The power vacuum left behind can be a breeding ground for instability. In Syria, Assad's collapse in late 2024, after years of brutal civil war and international pressure, has unleashed a fierce contest for power, a scramble for control that threatens to engulf the entire region. The question now is not just who will rule Syria, but what kind of Syria will emerge from the ashes. Turkey and Israel, once quiet partners, bound by shared security concerns and strategic interests, are now rivals. Their alliance fractured by competing visions for the future of Syria and the wider Middle East. Each is determined to shape Syria's future, to mold it in their own image and secure their own national interests in the process. Turkey wants a stable, Sunni-led government in Damascus, one that it can influence and control. This would secure its border, extend Ankara's reach into the Levant, and solidify its position as a regional power broker. Israel, in contrast, seeks a weak, fragmented Syria, a buffer state that poses no threat to its northern border. Crucially, Israel wants a Syria free from Iranian influence and incapable of threatening its security, a Syria that cannot be used as a launchpad for attacks or a conduit for weapons. This isn't a proxy war, fought through surrogates and shadowy operatives. It's a direct, high-stakes rivalry, a clash of national interests playing out in the open. It's military, diplomatic, and technological, a multifaceted struggle for dominance. It's playing out in real time, with consequences that are immediate and far-reaching. Turkish troops have moved in to stabilize the new order, establishing a presence in key areas and seeking to build alliances with local factions, but they have only to see their positions targeted by Israeli airstrikes, a clear signal of Israel's determination to prevent Turkey from consolidating its power. Electronic warfare has escalated, with both sides deploying sophisticated systems to disrupt and disable each other's capabilities. Turkish forces are jamming Israeli jets, pushing both sides to the brink of a full-scale conflict. The shockwaves of this contest ripple across the Middle East, destabilizing already fragile states and redrawing the map of alliances. It's affecting refugees, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis and creating new waves of displacement. It's impacting energy flows, threatening vital pipelines and disrupting the supply of oil and gas to global markets. And it's reshaping alliances, forcing countries to choose sides and creating new partnerships based on shared interests or perceived threats. With the US stepping back from its traditional role as a regional hegemon, Turkey and Israel are left to navigate a perilous landscape alone, without the safety net of American support or the moderating influence of American diplomacy. The path forward is uncertain, fraught with danger and unpredictable consequences. It ranges from open conflict, a descent into all-out war, to a fragile, uneasy peace, a temporary truce that could collapse at any moment. To understand the future of the Middle East, to anticipate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, we must first understand this new great game in Damascus, this high-stakes struggle for power that will shape the region for decades to come. The fall of Assad's regime in December 2024 marked a significant turning point, but it certainly didn't bring an end to Syria's deep-seated turmoil. The power vacuum left behind created new challenges and unforeseen rivalries. The nation, already scarred by years of civil war, now faced a new set of uncertainties. Instead, it opened a completely new chapter in the region's complex history. The old order was gone, and the scramble for influence began. New alliances were forged and old partnerships were tested as the geopolitical landscape shifted dramatically. For years, Turkey and Israel had stood in opposition to the Assad regime and its close ally, Iran. They shared a common interest in containing Iranian influence and preventing regional instability. But with the Assad regime gone, the dynamics changed, and their interests, once aligned against a common foe, began to collide in unexpected ways. The absence of Assad created a void that both nations sought to fill, leading to increased tension and competition. Turkey, with its long border and historical ties to Syria, saw a golden opportunity to install a friendly government in Damascus and significantly expand its regional influence. This was a chance to reshape the political landscape to its advantage. From Israel's perspective, this presented a new and potentially dangerous threat. The prospect of a strong, Turkish-backed Syria emerging right on its border raised serious security concerns in Jerusalem. This was a scenario that Israeli strategists had long sought to avoid. Turkey's vision for Syria involved a unified nation, ideally under Sunni leadership, which would align with Ankara's strategic goals. This would not only help solve Turkey's own refugee crisis by facilitating the return of Syrian refugees, but also curb the activities of Kurdish militants operating along the border region. A cornerstone of Israel's defense doctrine is to actively prevent the emergence of any strong, potentially hostile state in its immediate neighborhood. Therefore, a fragmented Syria, characterized by a patchwork of territories controlled by various local factions, was considered far less threatening to Israel's security than a unified and potentially powerful entity under Turkish influence. As Turkey began pouring significant resources into Syria, investing in infrastructure projects and even reopening its embassy in Damascus, signaling a long-term commitment, alarm bells started ringing in Israel. The risk, as they saw it, was simply trading one regional proxy, that of Iran, for another, this time under Turkish control. This fundamental clash of strategic visions and competing interests quickly transformed former partners, who once shared common ground, into open and increasingly hostile rivals. The stage was now irrevocably set for potential direct military confrontation, escalating diplomatic crises, and a dangerous rise in regional tensions. Syria's future, once uncertain, would now be decisively shaped by the competing ambitions and the underlying fears of its powerful neighbors, each vying for influence and control. The rivalry between Turkey and Israel was rapidly evolving, no longer confined to theoretical discussions or diplomatic maneuvering. It had become a tangible, immediate, and exceedingly dangerous reality, threatening to plunge the region into further instability. Following a period of intense instability and civil war in Syria, Turkey moved fast, seizing a crucial opportunity to reshape the region according to its strategic interests. In the aftermath of Assad's fall, which created a power vacuum and widespread chaos, Turkey initiated a large-scale military intervention, deploying over 20,000 troops into Syrian territory. These forces were instrumental in establishing training camps and providing extensive resources to train and equip the new Syrian National Army, a coalition of rebel groups aligned with Turkish interests. Its primary goal was to establish a stable, centralized government in Damascus, one that could effectively govern the country and maintain order. Crucially, this new government would be loyal to Ankara, ensuring that Turkish interests were prioritized and that Syria remained within Turkey's sphere of influence, capable of restoring order. As a symbol of its commitment and influence, Turkey reopened its embassy in Damascus, embedded advisors in key government ministries, and played a central role in steering Syria's political transition, ensuring that the new government aligned with its strategic objectives. The stakes are high. This is a complex geopolitical game with far-reaching consequences. Turkey is heavily invested in this outcome because it wants to solve its ongoing refugee crisis, which has placed a significant strain on its economy and social fabric. Furthermore, Turkey aims to eliminate Kurdish-led autonomous regions along its border, viewing them as a threat to its national security and territorial integrity. For Ankara, a friendly Syria acts as a crucial security buffer, protecting it from potential threats and instability emanating from the region. This strategy also serves as a solution to domestic pressures, bolstering support for the government and addressing concerns about security and regional influence. But to Israel, this assertive Turkish policy looks like neo-Ottoman expansion, a revival of historical ambitions. They perceive it as a Turkish client state rising on its border, potentially altering the regional balance of power. The sight of Turkish flags flying over Syrian buildings and a new Arab army being trained and equipped by Ankara are deeply unsettling for Israel, raising concerns about its own security and regional standing. This growing perception of Turkish expansionism and influence in the region is significantly fueling the current rivalry between Turkey and Israel, adding another layer of complexity to the already volatile Middle East. Israel's answer is disruption, not construction. Its strategy: keep Syria weak, divided, and unable to threaten Israeli security. Israeli airstrikes now target not just Iranian assets but Syrian bases rebuilt with Turkish help. Each strike is a message. Turkey's project will face constant resistance. Israel also uses electronic warfare, jamming Turkish drones and challenging Ankara's operations. The goal is a patchwork Syria, semi-autonomous zones, a weak central government, and no single dominant power. By degrading central infrastructure and sparing local militias, Israel encourages fragmentation. For Israel, a fractured Syria is the safest buffer. The rivalry has brought Turkey and Israel to the brink of direct conflict. In spring 2025, Israeli airstrikes hit Syrian facilities supported by Turkish advisors. Turkey responded with advanced electronic warfare, jamming Israeli jets, a dangerous escalation. The world watched as both militaries stood on high alert, with diplomats scrambling to prevent disaster. The crisis was diffused, but trust was shattered. Now, each side sees the other as an active military threat. Even without open war, Syria has become a battleground for their direct contest. With both militaries operating in close quarters, the risk of accidental war is ever present. To prevent disaster, Turkey and Israel established a de-confliction hotline, a direct line between command centers. In April 2025, delegations met in Azerbaijan to set rules of engagement and define operational zones. These talks aren't about peace, but about avoiding catastrophe. The hotline helps prevent accidents, but it can't resolve the core political conflict. The shadow war continues. Airstrikes, drone operations, and constant brinkmanship. The de-confliction mechanism is a safety net, not a solution. Trust is non-existent. Suspicion and hostility define every move. Both sides walk a tightrope, talking to avoid disaster while jostling for dominance. The future of Syria and the region hangs in the balance. 3 scenarios loom: escalation, diplomacy, or stalemate. Escalation could erupt from a single misstep, dragging both nations into open war. Diplomacy, led by outside powers, could forge a fragile peace, but would demand tough compromises. The most likely outcome is a tense stalemate. No side wins, but both avoid all-out war. The hotline stays active, the shadow war grinds on, and Syria remains contested ground. Its sovereignty is shaped not by Syrians but by the ambitions of Ankara and Tel Aviv. As the US withdraws, regional powers chart their own course. The world can only hope they choose restraint over ruin. The new great game in Damascus is far from over.